Now, the greatest little man of all time, Isiah Thomas, had given the Detroit Pistons the credit of giving the NBA their TV ratings boost and not the rival of Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. Now, if we look back, we have to remember the Detroit Pistons had made their run in the late 80s and they branded themselves as Rebels, aka the Bad Boys, and they also branded themselves in the silver and black from the Oakland Raiders. And at the same time, we have to remember that the element of gangster hip hop was just starting up, and the most popular group within that subgenre of hip hop was the NWA with Dr. Dre and Eazy-E. And what I think Isiah Thomas may not have ever taken into consideration was the cross branding between that rap element and their team, even though most of the players probably don't even listen to hip hop. But Isiah Thomas spoke about this. You guys check it out, and every once in a while, I'll check in.
Do you agree with that?
I think Bird and Magic saved the league, and I think the league took off when the Detroit Pistons showed up on the scene. I think Bird and Magic, you know, what the NBA was coming out of in the 70s, and how the United States was. I mean, we have to talk about that now. How the United States was for black men in the 70s, and then Bird and Magic being on the stage in the early 80s, coming out of college and then, playing that game again. Magic coming to LA, Bird going to Boston. They walked into culture. They walked into a foundation. They walked into a way of being. They walked into winning. They didn't have to, get a piece of paper and go to school and get educated.
Right.
They walked into it, right? Now, that helped. But what the ratings say and what the numbers say, when the league took off, is when them bad boys from the Detroit Pistons showed up, because we showed up with a totally different kind of crowd.
And some of that crowd was that NWA hip-hop crowd, which they probably did not even realize at the time. Once again, that was like a brand new subculture within America. That gangster hip-hop element, not hip-hop itself, but the gangster hip-hop element of NWA, that was a subculture that took American pop culture by surprise.
We had, people from all different walks of life. And we started putting 50, 60,000 people in the Silverdome.
That's a big-ass stadium.
And then we had 3 rivalries. I think we're the only team that only had 3 rivalries. The Lakers, the Celtics, and the Bulls, right? So.
Yep, the holy trinity of the 80s right there. But also another element that the Bad Boy Pistons brought in that people don't give enough credit to is that they actually were playing that Golden State Warriors kind of style of basketball. With the stretch 5 of Bill Laimbeer, with 2 small guards who could really shoot and play great defense, just like Klay Thompson and Stephen Curry. They had Joe Dumars and Isiah Thomas. They played a very similar style, besides them fighting, but they played a very similar style to what the Golden State Warriors get credit for today. But it was actually the Detroit Pistons who welcomed that type of style of play, and they played like that during a big man era. So that tells you a lot about this team. Not only that they had the bad boys element, they love to fight, and they also played a modern style of basketball.
Every time we played, everywhere we moved, right, it was different. And then we didn't understand, we didn't know. So we met a gentleman by the name of Mike Ornstein with the LA Raiders, or the Oakland Raiders at that time. What they call cross-marketing today, we didn't know there was such a term as cross-marketing.
And once again, Isiah Thomas, throughout this whole interview, he did not bring up the cross-marketing with that Oakland Raiders gear also having to do with the NWA rap group. It was almost like a triple cross-marketing. You got the free marketing of the NFL Raiders, who were known as Rebels, and also you got the cross-marketing of the subculture of hip-hop, aka gangster rap, with the NWA, with the rise of that rap group in 1987, 88, and 89. And those were the Pistons' basically championship years, basically their run, all the way up through 1990.
Connection with the Oakland Raiders then let us start changing our colors. So we went from the red, white, and blue to the silver and black. And then we had a second jersey. We had a second uniform, and the NBA really didn't own any of that. So when we walked off the stage and the Bulls walked on the stage, that's when y'all got the shooting jerseys. That's when they started changing the different color uniforms and everything else. But the Pistons started all that. So the highest rated games in the 80s, Pistons against Celtics, Pistons against Lakers, Pistons against Bulls. And they all have one thing in common. That's the Detroit Pistons.
And that was a great point brought up by Isiah Thomas. But once again, he may have the actual numbers internally, since he's a major figure in the league. He has a lot more power than what people think it is, as he brought up to Steven Jackson in this interview that he made one phone call and got Steven Jackson back into the league after that mayhem at the Palace. But at the end of the day, there was a triple cross marketing effect that Isiah Thomas in this interview does not acknowledge. And that was the NWA rap group with Eazy-E and Dr. Dre. That was almost a triple cross marketing kind of venture that kind of happened by chance. You got the Oakland Raiders, them being known as Rebels. You got the Bad Boy Pistons taking on that color, that attitude, and also the NWA rap group. It's almost like an accidental infusion of all three of those subcultures. And it probably brought a different crowd to watch the NBA and the Bad Boy Pistons. So it is a major possibility that they did have a better effect on the ratings due to the fact that, especially on a pop culture level, they brought in that hip hop element into the league. As now we could look back as we've seen that hip hop element played throughout the NBA through the 90s, especially with the Michigan Fab Five with Jalen Rose and Chris Webber. Them making their shorts longer. They brought a kind of hip hop element into the league. That kind of like put the stamp on like the hip hop cross branding between the NBA that we even see that plays out to today. And before I get out of here, definitely check out the description below. Hit up the mailbag. Leave me a voicemail. I'm going to feature it on a segment on the show. It'll be great to hear from you guys. And until next time, you fellas stay safe. Peace.